Admiral Zixthara stood on the bridge of the massive warship called the Void Render. Her 6 arms moved across the control panels as she stared at the blue planet floating in space before her. Earth looked so small and helpless, so weak, so perfectly defenseless. The Admiral's skin was dark purple and covered in scales that gleamed under the bridge lights. Her 4 yellow eyes focused on the planet that would soon be destroyed. Around her, hundreds of alien crew members worked. At their stations, the bridge hummed with quiet activity as the giant ship prepared for battle. "Status report," Zixthara commanded. Her voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. When she spoke, her sharp teeth showed clearly. Captain Veltar, her second-in-command, approached with a datapad in his clawed hands. He was shorter than the Admiral, but just as deadly-looking. His red eyes glowed as he read from the device. "Admiral, all 847 ships are in position around the planet. Our scanners show no orbital defenses, no military satellites, no space stations with weapons. The humans appear to have nothing but basic communication equipment in orbit." Zixthara's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among her species. "And their ground forces?" "Pathetic, Admiral. Our intelligence reports show they still use chemical rockets to reach space. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear bombs that use primitive fission technology. They have no energy shields. No plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. By our calculations, their entire military could not damage even one of our smallest ships." The Admiral walked to the massive window that showed space around them. The Hegemony fleet stretched out in all directions. Massive dreadnoughts like her own ship floated next to smaller destroyers and fighters. Each ship was armed with enough firepower to level a city. Together they could turn entire planets into dust. "How long since we arrived in their system?" she asked. 6 hours, Admiral. We have been scanning their planet and monitoring their communications during that time. They know we are here. Their leaders have been meeting in emergency sessions." Zixthara nodded slowly. This was always her favorite part. The moment when a new species realized they were completely outmatched. The moment when they understood that their civilization was about to end unless they surrendered completely. "Open a communication channel to the planet," she ordered. The communications officer, a thin alien with blue skin and large black eyes, worked quickly at his station. "Channel open, Admiral. Broadcasting on all human frequencies." Zixthara straightened to her full height of nearly 8 feet. She activated the recording system that would send her message to every radio, television, and computer on Earth. Her voice would reach every human on the planet within minutes. "People of Earth," she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "I am Admiral Zixthara of the Galactic Hegemony. Your planet is now surrounded by our fleet. You have seen our ships. You know you cannot fight us?" She paused, letting her words sink in. On planets across the galaxy, this speech had brought mighty civilizations to their knees. Advanced species with powerful weapons had surrendered rather than face complete destruction. "We offer you a choice," she continued. "Surrender your world and your people to the Hegemony. Your planet will become a resource extraction site. Your population will be relocated to work camps where you will serve the Empire. In return, your species will be allowed to continue existing." The Admiral began pacing across the bridge as she spoke. Her heavy footsteps echoed in the silence. Every crew member listened to the speech they had heard her give many times before. "The alternative is simple. If you refuse our generous offer, we will destroy your planet completely. Every city will burn, every human will die. Your world will become nothing but floating rocks in space. No one will remember that your species ever existed." She stopped pacing and faced the window again. Earth continued to spin slowly, looking peaceful and unaware of the death that surrounded it. "You have exactly 10 minutes to decide. Contact your leaders, hold your meetings. Pray to whatever gods you worship. But understand this. When those 10 minutes end, you will either surrender completely or you will all die. There is no third option. There is no negotiation. There is no mercy. Zixtara gestured to the communications officer who cut the transmission. Now came the waiting. In her experience, most species needed the full 10 minutes to accept their fate. Some tried to negotiate, others begged for more time. A few actually tried to fight, which always ended badly for them. All weapon systems are charged and ready, Admiral, reported the weapons officer. Plasma cannons are at full power. Quantum torpedoes are loaded. Shield breakers are online. Excellent. Begin the countdown. Display it on all screens where the humans can see it. Across the fleet, every ship activated its external displays. Massive numbers appeared in space, visible to anyone on Earth who looked up at the night sky. The countdown showed exactly how much time the humans had left to make their choice. 10 minutes. Zixtara had conquered 43 worlds during her career. She had seen species far more advanced than humans fall before the might of the Hegemony. The Acrylian Empire had lasted less than a day. The machine worlds of Nexus Prime had fought for 3 hours before surrendering. The crystal beings of Zephyr had tried to hide in other dimensions, but Hegemony weapons could reach anywhere. Humans were nothing special. Their technology was hundreds of years behind the rest of the galaxy. They had barely learned to leave their own planet. They knew nothing about energy weapons or space warfare. They probably thought their nuclear bombs were the most powerful weapons in the universe. Admiral, called the sensor operator. We are detecting increased activity on the planet. Military bases are going to high alert. Their primitive aircraft are taking off from airfields around the world. Zixtara's mandibles clicked in amusement. Let them scramble their little planes. Let them feel like they are doing something important. It will make no difference. 9 minutes remaining. Any response from their leaders yet? She asked. Nothing official, Admiral. We are monitoring their communications channels. Their governments are meeting, but they have not sent us any message. This was normal. Most species needed time to argue among themselves. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender immediately. Usually the smart ones won the argument, but not always. Zixtara had destroyed 17 worlds whose leaders chose to fight rather than submit. She walked to her command chair, a massive seat designed for her large frame. The chair was made from the metal of the first ship she had ever destroyed. In battle, it reminded her that she had never lost a fight, never failed a mission, never shown mercy to an enemy. Status of the fleet? She asked. All ships report ready for battle, Admiral. Formation Omega is holding perfectly. Every angle of approach to the planet is covered. If they somehow had hidden ships, they could not escape our trap. Formation. Omega was the Hegemony's standard planetary destruction pattern. Ships were positioned at precise points around a world to ensure maximum coverage when they fired. The pattern had been tested on hundreds of planets. It had never failed to completely destroy a world within 30 minutes. 8 minutes remaining. Zixtara thought about her orders from the Hegemony High Command. Earth was to be conquered and stripped of its resources. The humans were to be enslaved for labor on other worlds. Intelligence reports suggested the planet had large amounts of water, metals, and other useful materials, but more importantly, Earth was located at a strategic point between two major galactic regions. Controlling it would give the Hegemony a perfect base for expanding into new areas of space. The humans were just in the way. Admiral. The communications officer sounded excited. We are receiving a transmission from the planet. It appears to be from their Global Leadership Council. Put it on the main screen. The front wall of the bridge changed to show the interior of what looked like a conference room. Several humans sat around a large table. They appeared to be the leaders of different nations on Earth. Zixtara had seen similar scenes countless times before. One of the humans, an older male with gray hair, stood up. He looked directly into the camera with calm eyes that showed no fear. This surprised the Admiral slightly. Most species showed obvious terror at this point. I am Secretary General Harrison of the United Earth Council, the human said. His voice was steady and clear. We have received your ultimatum and discussed it among our member nations. Zixtara leaned forward in her chair. Here it comes, she thought. The surrender, the pleading, the desperate offers to negotiate. Our answer is simple, Secretary General Harrison continued. We respectfully decline your offer. The bridge fell, completely silent. Every alien crew member stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. In all her years of conquest, Zixtara had never heard such a calm, polite refusal. Furthermore, the human continued, we reject your demand for surrender. Earth will not submit to your empire. Our people will not become your slaves. We choose to remain free, regardless of the consequences. 7 minutes remaining, Zixtara stood up slowly, her 4 eyes narrowing as she studied the human on the screen. You understand what you are choosing? You understand that your entire species will die? We understand perfectly, Harrison replied. But we have decided that some things are more important than survival. Freedom is one of those things. We will not trade our liberty for our lives. The Admiral's skin darkened with anger. You are making a mistake, human. You have no weapons that can harm us. You have no defenses that can protect you. You will all die for nothing. Perhaps, Harrison said with a slight smile, but we will. Die as free beings, not as slaves. That means something to us. The transmission ended. The screen went back to showing the countdown timer, 6 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Zixtara stared at the empty screen for a long moment. In all her years of conquest, only 3 species had chosen death over surrender. All 3 had been completely destroyed, but something about the human's response bothered her. There had been no fear in his eyes, no desperation, just calm certainty. Scan the planet again, she ordered. Full spectrum analysis. Look for anything we might have missed. The sensor operator worked quickly at his station. Scanning now, Admiral. Deep penetration sensors are active. Minutes passed as the sensors swept across Earth. Zixtara watched the readouts carefully, looking for any sign of hidden weapons or defenses. But the scans showed the same results as before. Primitive technology, no energy shields, no plasma. Weapons, no orbital defenses. Admiral, the sensor operator called. I am detecting some unusual readings. What kind of readings? There appear to be large underground facilities on the planet, much larger than our previous scans indicated. And there is something strange about their satellites. Zixtara moved to the sensor station. Show me. The main screen changed to display a detailed scan of Earth. Red dots marked the locations of underground facilities. There were dozens of them, scattered across every continent. Some were enormous, stretching for miles beneath the surface. What are those facilities for? She asked. Unknown, Admiral. They are too deep for our sensors to penetrate completely. But they appear to have very large power sources, much larger than necessary for their apparent size. 5 minutes remaining. And, the satellites? That is even stranger, Admiral. Our initial scans showed them to be simple communication devices. But now I am detecting some unusual energy signatures. Very faint, but definitely there. Zixtara stared at the display. Something was wrong. Something was different about this planet. But she could not figure out what it was. Could they have some kind of cloaking technology? She asked. Impossible, Admiral. Their technology level is far too primitive for anything like that. They have barely achieved nuclear fission. Cloaking requires understanding of quantum mechanics far beyond their capabilities. 4 minutes remaining, the Admiral returned to her command chair. Whatever the humans were hiding, it could not possibly be enough to threaten her fleet. No single planet could stand against 847 warships. No species with such primitive technology could hope to fight the Hegemony, but the calm certainty in the human leader's voice continued to bother her. It reminded her of something, but she could not remember what. 3 minutes remaining. All ships report ready to fire on your command, Admiral, the weapons officer announced. Excellent. Begin final. Targeting sequences. I want this planet reduced to asteroids within 30 minutes of opening fire. 2 minutes remaining. Zixtara watched the countdown with satisfaction. Soon another world would fall to the Hegemony. Another species would be added to the Empire's slave populations. Another step toward total galactic domination would be complete. But deep in her mind, a small voice whispered that something was very wrong. Something about this planet. Something about these humans. Something she was missing. 1 minute remaining. The Admiral pushed the doubts aside. She had a job to do. The Hegemony did not accept failure. The humans had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. 30 seconds, Admiral. Zixthara stood and moved to the weapons control station. She would give the firing order herself. It was a tradition she followed on every conquest. 20 seconds. Around the fleet, 847 warships prepared to unleash destruction on an unimaginable scale. Enough firepower to crack a planet's core, enough energy to boil away oceans. Enough destruction to end a civilization forever. 10 seconds, Admiral. Zixthara placed her hand on the firing control. In a few moments, she would press the button that would end the human species forever. Just like she had done so many times before. 5 seconds. The countdown reached its final moments. Earth continued to spin peacefully in space, apparently, unaware that death was about to rain down from the stars. Time, Admiral. Zixthara looked at Earth one last time. Such a beautiful world, such a waste. But the humans had chosen their fate. Her finger moved toward the firing button, and that was when everything changed. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Director Sarah Shun stood in the center of the most secret facility on Earth. The Earth Defense Command Center stretched out in all directions around her. Massive screens covered every wall, showing the alien fleet that surrounded her planet. The room buzzed with activity as hundreds of technicians worked at their stations. Sarah was 52 years old, with short black hair and sharp brown eyes. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. The moment when humanity would finally drop the mask they had worn for 70 years. Status report, she called out to her team. Colonel Martinez, her military advisor, approached with a tablet in his hands. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and scars on his face from battles that never appeared in any official records. All Terra Shield installations are online and ready, Director. We have confirmation from every facility on the planet. The masquerade protocols are holding perfectly. The aliens still think we are defenseless. Sarah nodded and looked at the main display screen. It showed Admiral Zixthara on the bridge of her flagship, her hand moving toward the firing control. In 8 minutes, the alien had gone from confident to slightly worried. Sarah had watched every moment of the countdown, studying her enemy. Time remaining until they fire? She asked. 30 seconds, Director, maybe less. Sarah walked to the center console where a single red button waited under a clear protective cover. Next to it were the words Terra Shield Activation in both English and 12 other languages. Representatives from every nation on Earth had their fingers on identical buttons in similar bunkers around the world. Communications? Patch me through to all world leaders. The communications officer nodded. You are connected, Director. All 30 bunkers are online. Sarah could see the faces of her counterparts on smaller screens around the room. President Williams from North America, Premier Zhang from Asia, Chancellor Kovac from Europe, and 10 others. Each person led their continent's defense systems. Each person had spent decades preparing for this day. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah said quietly, the vote was unanimous 12 hours ago. Every nation agreed. No surrender, no matter what. We still in agreement? One by one, each leader nodded. President Williams spoke for all of them. The human race does not kneel, Director. Not today, not ever. Then it is time to show them what humanity really is, Sarah said. She lifted the protective cover over the red button. Around the world, 12 other leaders did the same thing. On the main screen, Admiral Zixthara's finger was almost touching her firing control. Terra Shield activation in 5 seconds, Sarah announced. 4, 3, 2, 1, execute. 13. Fingers pressed 13 buttons at exactly the same moment. All around the Earth. Everything changed. What the aliens thought were simple mountains suddenly split open like giant flowers blooming. Massive railgun installations rose from hidden chambers beneath the peaks. The Rocky Mountains, the Alps, the Himalayas, the Andes all revealed their true purpose. They had been carefully modified over decades to hide humanity's most powerful weapons. Mount McKinley in Alaska opened like a mechanical flower. Inside was a railgun so large it could fire projectiles the size of school buses at nearly the speed of light. Mount Fuji in Japan revealed twin plasma cannon arrays that began charging with blue-white energy. The Matterhorn in Switzerland split apart to show a quantum torpedo launcher that could punch holes through reality itself. In the Pacific Ocean, what looked like empty water suddenly erupted as massive platforms rose from the depths. Underwater, cities that had been built in secret for 30 years broke the surface. Each one was a fortress armed with enough firepower to destroy fleets. Submarines the size of city blocks emerged from deep ocean trenches, their hulls bristling with weapons that used technology stolen from crashed alien ships. The moon, which had looked dead and empty to alien scanners, suddenly came alive, ancient-looking. Craters folded back to reveal launch bays filled with ships. The Sea of Tranquility opened up to show a military base that stretched for hundreds of miles beneath the lunar surface. Thousands of fighters poured out of hidden tunnels, their engines glowing with captured alien technology. Sarah watched the displays as humanity's true face was revealed. For 70 years since the first alien scout ship had crashed in the New Mexico desert, her planet had been preparing. Every piece of alien technology, every captured enemy vessel, every fragment of advanced equipment had been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Phase 1 complete, Director, reported her technical officer. All cloaking systems are offline. All weapons platforms are active and charging. Excellent. Begin Phase 2. Launch the fleet. Around the solar system, what appeared to be asteroids and space debris suddenly revealed their true nature. Mining stations in the asteroid belt dropped their disguises to show massive fortress factories. Automated shipyards that had been building humanity's secret fleet for decades came online. Ships that had been hidden behind fake rocks and ice began moving toward Earth. Mars Base Alpha, which alien scans had shown as a small research station, transformed before their eyes. The red planet's surface folded back to reveal underground cities that housed millions of people. Launch bays opened across the entire northern hemisphere, releasing swarms of fighters and destroyers that had been waiting for this moment. Status of the secret fleet? Sarah asked. Captain Torres, the head of space operations, checked his displays. All ships are responding, Director. The Terran Vengeance and her sister ships are decloaking throughout the system. We have over 3,000 vessels moving to intercept positions. Sarah smiled for the first time in hours. The Terran Vengeance was humanity's first true space battleship, built using technology captured from alien vessels, powered by zero-point energy cores that had been reverse-engineered from crashed enemy ships, and armed with weapons that could tear holes in space and time. How long until the aliens detect our true strength? She asked. Their scanners are still adjusting, Director. Estimate 30 seconds before they realize what they are facing. On the main display, Admiral Zixthara was staring at her sensors with obvious confusion. The aliens' 4 eyes were wide with shock as readings poured in from around Earth's solar system. Sarah could almost hear the aliens' thoughts as she realized that everything she believed about humanity was wrong. Director, called the intelligence officer, we are monitoring alien communications. They are trying to understand what is happening. Their fleet commander is demanding explanations from her sensor operators. Let her try to figure it out, Sarah said calmly. She has about 20 seconds before it becomes very clear. The truth was that humanity had learned about the Galactic Hegemony 50 years ago when they captured an alien spy ship. The pilot had talked before he died, telling them everything about the empire that conquered worlds and enslaved entire species. From that moment, every human government had worked together on a single project: make sure Earth was ready when the Hegemony came calling. They had learned that the Hegemony always studied their targets before attacking. They sent scout ships to gather information about a planet's defenses and technology level. So humanity had given them exactly what they expected to see: a primitive world with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. But while the aliens were seeing what they wanted to see, humanity was building a war machine like nothing the galaxy had ever witnessed. They took alien technology and made it better. They studied enemy tactics and developed counters. They turned their entire solar system into a trap designed to catch the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Phase 3 is ready, Director, reported Colonel Martinez. All personnel are in position. Marines are suited up and ready for boarding operations. Sarah nodded. Phase 3 was the part she was most proud of. Human Marines wearing powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any known alien species. Soldiers enhanced with neural interfaces that let them think and react faster than any enemy. Warriors who had trained their entire lives for the chance to fight the Hegemony face-to-face. Wait for my signal, she said. Let them realize what they are facing first. On the display, Admiral Zixtara was now standing and pointing at her screens. Her crew was working frantically at their stations as more and more impossible readings came in. Human ships were appearing everywhere. Weapons platforms that shouldn't exist were powering up all around Earth. The aliens were finally understanding that they had walked into a trap. Director, the communications officer sounded excited. The alien commander is trying to contact us. She wants to talk. Ignore her, Sarah said firmly. We are past the time for talking. She had her chance to leave our system peacefully. She chose war instead. The main display split to show different views of the solar system. Every screen showed the same thing: humanity's secret fleet moving into attack positions. Ships that used captured alien technology but improved it with human engineering. Vessels that were faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the Hegemony had ever built. Status of Terra Shield defense grid? Sarah asked. Fully operational, Director. Every satellite in orbit is now showing its true function. The aliens thought they were communication arrays. In reality, they are weapons platforms armed with particle beam cannons and quantum missile systems. Sarah remembered the day they had first tested the Terra Shield satellites. Each one was powered by a miniature star contained in a magnetic bottle. Each one could destroy a city-sized target from orbit. There were over 5,000 of them surrounding Earth, all hidden behind the appearance of simple communication equipment. Director, called Captain Torres, I am getting reports from our ships throughout the system. The aliens are finally detecting our full strength. Their formation is starting to break apart as individual captains panic. How many ships do we have in total? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. 4,700. And 32 combat vessels, Director, plus another 2,000 support ships. We outnumber the alien fleet by more than 5 to 1. Sarah smiled grimly. The Hegemony thought they were bringing 847 ships to destroy a defenseless world. Instead, they had brought 847 ships into a system defended by nearly 7,000 human warships, all armed with technology that matched or exceeded their own. Begin the counterattack, she ordered. All ships, all platforms, all installations, target the alien fleet and fire at will. Around Earth, thousands of weapon systems came to life at once. The hidden railguns fired projectiles that streaked through space like falling stars. Plasma cannons sent beams of pure energy racing toward the alien ships. Quantum torpedo launchers opened holes in space that swallowed enemy vessels whole. From the moon, the secret human fleet launched in waves. Fighters with engines that bent space around them. Destroyers armed with singularity bombs that could collapse matter into black holes. Battleships that used the same technology as the alien vessels but built with human improvements. Direct hit on the alien flagship, reported the weapons officer. The railgun stripe penetrated their shields and caused major damage to their forward sections. Sarah watched as the first human shots reached the Hegemony fleet. Admiral Zixtara S. Massive warship shuddered under the impact of a projectile that hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. The aliens' shields, which should have stopped any primitive human weapon, failed completely against the super-dense metal fired at near light speed. "Target their command ships first," Sarah ordered. "Cut off their communications and coordination. Make them fight as individuals instead of as a fleet." The battle was beginning exactly as humanity had planned it. For 70 years, they had studied every hegemony tactic, every fleet formation, every standard response to different situations. They knew how the aliens would react, and they had prepared counters for everything. "Director!" The intelligence officer was almost shouting. "The alien commander is broadcasting on all frequencies. She is trying to surrender." Sarah looked at the screen showing Admiral Zixthara. The alien was clearly in shock, her 4 eyes wide with fear as she watched her mighty fleet being torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist from a species that should have been helpless. "Too late for that," Sarah said coldly. "She came here to destroy our world and enslave our people. The time for mercy ended when she gave us that ultimatum. What are your orders, Director?" Sarah looked around the command center at all the people who had worked their entire lives for this moment. Scientists who had unlocked the secrets of alien technology, engineers who had built impossible weapons, soldiers who had trained to fight enemies from the stars. All of them had believed in this day when humanity would stop hiding and start fighting back. "Send a message to all human forces," she said. "Today we stop pretending to be weak. Today we show the galaxy what humanity really is. Today we begin the war that will free every enslaved world and end the hegemony forever." The message went out across the solar system in an instant, carried by quantum communication systems that allowed faster-than-light contact. Every human ship, every weapons platform, every hidden base received the same order: fight with everything you have, show no mercy to those who would enslave humanity, and make sure the galaxy knows that Earth remembers its children. The real battle was just beginning. Captain Marcus Torres strapped himself into the pilot seat of the Terran Vengeance, humanity's most advanced warship. The bridge around him hummed with quiet energy as his crew prepared for battle. Through the main window he could see the alien fleet beginning to panic as they realized what they were really facing. Marcus was 38 years old, with dark hair and calm blue eyes. He had been born in space, aboard one of the secret colonies that most humans did not even know existed. His entire life had been spent preparing for this moment, training to fight aliens, learning to use captured technology, waiting for the day when humanity would stop hiding and start fighting back. "All stations report ready, Captain," called his first officer, Commander Lisa Park. She was younger than Marcus, but just as experienced. Like him, she had grown up knowing that this day would come. "Excellent. Take us out of the asteroid field and toward the enemy fleet. But keep us cloaked until I give the order." The Terran Vengeance was invisible to alien sensors thanks to technology stolen from a crashed Hegemony scout ship 15 years ago, but humanity had made improvements. Where the original alien cloaking device could hide one small ship, the human version could conceal an entire battleship while it moved at full speed. Marcus looked at his tactical display. It showed the positions of nearly 7,000 human ships throughout the solar system. All of them had been hiding for years, disguised as asteroids, space debris, or simple mining equipment. Now they were moving toward the alien fleet like sharks smelling blood in the water. "Status of the enemy fleet?" he asked Lieutenant Chun. His tactical officer checked her instruments. "The aliens are in complete chaos, Captain. Their formation is breaking apart. Individual ships are trying to escape while others are still attempting to follow orders. Admiral Zixthara's flagship has taken heavy damage from the Earth-based railgun strikes." Marcus smiled grimly. The first phase of the battle was going exactly as planned. For 70 years, humanity had studied hegemony tactics. They knew that alien fleets depended on strict coordination and communication. Cut off the command structure, and the entire force would fall apart. "Are our Marines ready for boarding operations?" he asked. "Standing by, Captain. All assault teams are suited." "Up and waiting for your order," Marcus nodded. The Marines aboard his ship were not ordinary soldiers. They wore powered armor that had been built using alien technology but improved with human engineering. The suits made them stronger, faster, and tougher than any known species in the galaxy. Each Marine was also enhanced with neural implants that allowed them to think and react faster than any enemy. "Take us closer to the flagship," Marcus ordered. "I want to capture Admiral Zixthara alive if possible. The intelligence she carries could help us locate other Hegemony fleets." The Terran Vengeance accelerated toward the alien command ship. Around them, the space battle was growing more intense by the minute. Human fighters swarmed around enemy vessels like angry bees. Destroyers fired quantum torpedoes that opened holes in reality itself. Battleships used particle beam weapons that could cut alien warships in half. "Captain," Lieutenant Chun sounded excited, "I am detecting major damage to the enemy flagships. Engines, they are dead in space and cannot escape. Perfect. Begin the boarding operation and drop our cloak. I want them to see us coming." The Terran Vengeance suddenly appeared on alien sensors like a ghost becoming solid. The ship was massive, nearly 2 miles long and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Its hull was black metal that seemed to absorb light, making it look like a piece of living darkness against the stars. Marcus opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. "Admiral Zixthara, this is Captain Torres of the Terran Vengeance. You are defeated. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded." On the main screen, the alien admiral appeared. Her purple skin had turned almost black with rage and fear. Her 4 eyes glowed with hatred as she stared at Marcus. "Impossible," she hissed. "Your species is primitive. You have no technology capable of building such ships." "You are wrong about many things, Admiral," Marcus replied calmly. "We are not primitive. We have been studying your technology for decades, and we have made improvements that your empire never imagined." Zixthara's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You cannot have hidden such a fleet. Our scouts surveyed your system. Our intelligence is perfect. Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted it to see. We have been preparing for your arrival since 1947. Every crashed ship, every captured piece of technology, every dead alien scout has taught us something new. You came here thinking you would conquer a helpless world. Instead, you walked into a trap that took us 70 years to build." The alien admiral's face twisted with fury. "Even if you defeat my fleet, the Hegemony will send others. Larger fleets, more powerful weapons. You cannot fight the entire galaxy," Marcus smiled coldly. "We have no intention of fighting the entire galaxy, Admiral. We intend to free it, starting with your empire." He cut the communication and turned to his crew. "Begin boarding operations. I want that ship captured within 10 minutes. Launch bays along the Terran Vengeance opened to release dozens of assault shuttles. Each shuttle carried 20 Marines in full combat armor. The shuttles were equipped with cutting tools that could slice through any known hull material and shields that could deflect most alien weapons. Marcus watched on his tactical display as the shuttles raced toward the alien flagship. Around them, the larger battle continued to rage. Human ships were winning everywhere, using tactics and weapons that the Hegemony had never encountered before. "Report from Squadron 7, Captain," called the communications officer. "They have destroyed 12 enemy cruisers using the new Singularity torpedoes. No human casualties. Excellent. What about the Mars Defense Force?" "They report complete success, Captain. All alien ships that tried to approach the Red Planet have been destroyed. The hidden bases there are launching additional fighters to support our main fleet." Marcus nodded with satisfaction. Mars had been humanity's first secret colony, established 30 years ago under the cover of a simple research mission. In reality, it was a massive military base designed to serve as a backup if Earth was ever destroyed. The Red Planet was now home to over 5 million humans and served as the main construction facility for humanity's secret space fleet. "Captain," Lieutenant Chun called, "our boarding shuttles have reached the enemy flagship. Marines are cutting through the hull now." On a smaller screen, Marcus could see the view from the lead shuttle. The Marine assault team was using plasma cutters to slice through the alien ship's armor like it was made of paper. The hull material that should have been impenetrable to human weapons was no match for tools built using captured Hegemony technology. "Breach successful," reported Sergeant Major Rodriguez, the leader of the Marine assault team. "We are inside the enemy ship." Beginning advance toward the bridge. Marcus switched his view to the sergeant's helmet camera. He could see the interior of the alien warship as the Marines moved through the corridors. The hallways were designed for creatures much larger than humans, with high ceilings and wide passages. Emergency lights flashed red, and alien crew members could be heard shouting in the distance. "Resistance level?" Marcus asked. "Light so far, Captain. The aliens seem to be in complete panic. Most of them are running away from us rather than fighting." This was not surprising. Hegemony forces were used to fighting enemies with inferior technology. They had never faced soldiers who were faster, stronger, and better armed than they were. The alien crew had probably never seen powered armor that could stop their best weapons while allowing humans to move like lightning. "First contact with enemy security forces," Rodriguez reported. "Engaging now." Marcus watched as the Marines encountered a group of alien soldiers in the ship's main corridor. The aliens carried energy weapons that should have been devastating against any human opponent, but the Marine armor absorbed the alien fire without showing any damage at all. The human soldiers moved with inhuman speed and precision. Their neural enhancements allowed them to think and react faster than any unmodified creature. They fired their weapons with perfect accuracy, each shot calculated by computer systems built into their armor. The alien security team was defeated in less than 30 seconds. The Marines stepped over the fallen enemies and continued toward the bridge without slowing down. "Impressive," Marcus muttered. "Continue the advance, Sergeant. Capture the bridge and secure all senior officers." "Roger that, Captain." "We are almost there." Marcus turned his attention back to the larger battle. On his tactical display, he could see that the human fleet was winning everywhere. The alien formation had completely collapsed. Individual enemy ships were trying to escape, but human vessels were faster and could track them anywhere in the system. "Status report on the enemy fleet?" he asked. Commander Park checked her instruments. "Over 200 alien ships have been destroyed, Captain. Another 300 are damaged and trying to withdraw. The rest are scattered throughout the system and being hunted down by our pursuit groups." "Any enemy ships managed to escape the system?" "Negative, Captain. Our long-range patrols are intercepting anything that tries to reach the edge of the solar system. Nothing gets out without our permission. This was crucial to humanity's plan. The Hegemony could not be allowed to learn what had really happened. Here, as far as the alien empire would know, their fleet had simply disappeared while attacking a primitive world. It would be months before they sent another force to investigate, giving humanity time to prepare for the next phase of the war. "Captain!" Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system. "We have reached the bridge. The alien commander is barricaded inside with her senior staff. Can you get through their defenses?" "Easily, sir. Their blast doors are no match." "For our cutting tools?" "We will have them in custody within 5 minutes." "Excellent. Remember, I want the Admiral alive if possible. Her knowledge of Hegemony fleet movements could be invaluable." Marcus watched as the Marines used their plasma cutters to slice through the bridge blast doors. The alien metals that should have been nearly indestructible melted like butter under the human tools. Within minutes, the Marines had created an opening large enough to enter the bridge. "Breach successful," Rodriguez reported. "We are on the bridge now. The alien command crew is surrendering." On his screen, Marcus could see Admiral Zixthara and her officers with their hands raised. The aliens looked terrified as the human Marines surrounded them. The powered armor made the soldiers look like metal giants, and their weapons could have destroyed the entire bridge in seconds. "Admiral Zixthara," Rodriguez said through his armor speakers, "you are now a prisoner of the Terran Defense Force. Your ship is captured, your fleet is destroyed. The battle is over." The alien admiral stared at the human soldier with hatred and disbelief. This is impossible. You are primitives. Cave dwellers. You should not have technology like this. You made the same mistake every conqueror makes, Rodriguez replied. You believed your own propaganda. You thought strength came from having the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. But real strength comes from something else entirely. What? Zixtara demanded. The willingness to do whatever it takes to protect your home and your family. Your empire conquers worlds because it is easy. Humans fight because we have no choice. That makes all the difference. Marcus smiled as he listened to the exchange. The sergeant was right. The hegemony had grown soft from centuries of easy victories. They had forgotten what it meant to fight an enemy that would never surrender, never give up, and never accept defeat. Bring the Admiral and her senior staff to the Terran Vengeance, Marcus ordered. We have questions for them. Roger that. Captain, beginning prisoner transfer now. Marcus turned to his tactical officer. What is the status of the overall battle? Lieutenant Chun checked her displays. The alien fleet is completely defeated, Captain. We have destroyed over 400 ships and captured another 200. The remaining vessels are either fleeing or trying to surrender. Total human casualties are less than 50 personnel across the entire fleet. Marcus shook his head in amazement. Less than 50 casualties while destroying a fleet of 847 warships. It was almost unbelievable, but it showed the advantage of superior technology combined with careful planning. Any word from Earth Defense Command? Yes, Captain. Director Chun reports that all planetary defense systems performed perfectly. The Terra Shield network is fully operational and ready for any follow-up attacks. Excellent. Signal all ships to begin recovery operations. I want every piece of alien technology salvaged and sent to our research facilities. Every alien prisoner interrogated. Every captured ship studied down to the smallest bolt. Aye, Captain. Marcus looked out at the space around his ship. The area that had been filled with an alien armada was now littered with debris and burning wreckage. Human ships moved through the destruction like sharks, capturing anything useful and destroying. Anything that might be dangerous? This battle was over, but Marcus knew it was only the beginning. The hegemony would eventually realize that their fleet had been destroyed. They would send larger forces, more powerful weapons, deadlier enemies, but humanity would be ready for them. For 70 years, his species had been preparing for this war. They had built a fleet that rivaled anything in the galaxy. They had weapons that could destroy planets and defenses that could stop entire armadas. Most importantly, they had the will to use them. The age of human hiding was over. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Zixtara sat in the prisoner holding cell aboard the Terran Vengeance, staring at the walls that seemed to be made of some impossible material. Her 4 hands were bound with restraints that looked simple but were stronger than any metal her empire had ever created. The cell was clean and well lit, but she knew she was trapped as surely as if she were buried alive. 3 hours had passed since her capture. 3 hours since her mighty fleet had been destroyed by creatures she had thought were primitives. 3 hours since everything she believed about the galaxy had been proven wrong. The door to her cell opened with a soft hiss. Captain Torres entered, followed by a woman in a dark blue uniform. The woman was older than the captain, with gray hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything. She carried a datapad and moved with the confidence of someone used to being in command. Admiral Zixtara, Captain Torres said politely. This is Director Sarah Chun of Earth Defense Command. She would like to speak with you. Zixtara looked up at the human woman with hatred burning in her 4 eyes. I have nothing to say to you, primitive. Sarah Chun sat down across from the alien admiral without showing any emotion. Primitive? She repeated thoughtfully. That is an interesting word choice. Tell me, Admiral, how many primitive species build fleets that can destroy yours in less than an hour? Your technology is stolen, Zixtara snarled. You took it from our ships and copied it like thieves? You are partially correct, Sarah admitted. We did acquire much of our technology from your empire's vessels, every scout ship that crashed on our world, every probe that malfunctioned in our system, every piece of equipment that fell into our hands over the past 70 years. The alien Admiral leaned forward angrily. Then you admit you are nothing but scavengers. Parasites feeding on the work of superior beings, Sarah smiled calmly. Admiral, do you know what makes a species truly advanced? It is not the ability to build powerful weapons. It is not the ability to conquer other worlds. It is the ability to learn, adapt, and improve. Your empire has forgotten how to do those things. Impossible. The Hegemony is the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Your technology has not changed in 300 years, Sarah said, consulting her datapad. We have studied your equipment carefully. The weapons on your flagship are identical to ones we recovered from a scout ship that crashed 50 years ago. Your shields use the same frequencies. Your engines work on the same principles. You have stopped growing because you believe you are already perfect. Zixthara's mandibles clicked nervously. The human woman was speaking with the confidence of someone who knew she was right. It was disturbing. Humans, on the other hand, never stop improving, Sarah continued. When we found your technology, we did not just copy it, we made it better. Your railguns fire projectiles at 60% of light speed. Ours fire at 95%. Your shields can stop energy weapons. Up to a certain power level. Ours can absorb that energy and use it to power our own systems. You lie, do I? Then explain how your fleet was destroyed so easily. Explain how your most powerful warships were cut apart by weapons that should not exist. Explain how soldiers wearing primitive armor walked through your best defenses like they were made of paper. The alien admiral had no answer. She had watched the battle recordings that her captors had provided. She had seen human ships moving faster than anything in the Hegemony fleet. She had watched her own weapons bounce harmlessly off human shields. She had witnessed her soldiers being defeated by enemies who moved like machines and fought with impossible skill. The real question, Sarah said, is what happens next? What do you mean? Your empire will eventually notice that your fleet is missing. They will send investigators. Then they will send another fleet, probably larger than yours. What do you think will happen to them? Zixthara felt a cold fear growing in her chest. If humans could destroy her fleet so easily, what could they do to an even larger force? How many ships would the Hegemony lose before they realized what they were really fighting? You cannot defeat the entire empire, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Can we not? Sarah asked. Admiral, your empire controls approximately 8,000 worlds. Your total military consists of roughly 100,000 ships spread across those systems. That sounds impressive until you realize that most of those ships are patrol vessels and transports, not true warships. The human woman consulted her datapad again. Our intelligence estimates that you have perhaps 20,000 ships capable of serious combat. We, meanwhile, have built nearly 15,000 ships right here in this one system. And we are still building more. Impossible. Your planet could not support such construction. You are thinking too small, Admiral. We are not building ships on one planet. We are building them throughout the entire solar system. Mars has 30 major shipyards. The asteroid belt has over 100 mining and construction facilities. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn have been converted into massive factories. We have been preparing for this war longer than some of your species have been alive. Zixthara stared at the human woman in growing horror. If what she was saying was true, then the Hegemony was not facing a primitive world that had gotten lucky. They were facing an entire civilization that had spent decades preparing to destroy them. But there is something else you should understand, Sarah continued. Something more important than fleets or weapons or technology. What? Your empire conquers worlds because conquest is easy. You attack species that cannot fight back effectively. You enslave civilizations that do not have the will to resist. You have forgotten what it means to face an enemy that will never surrender. Sarah stood up and walked to the small window in the cell. Through it, Zixtara could see the space around Earth. Human ships moved in perfect formations, patrolling the area where her fleet had died. Recovery vessels collected debris and salvaged technology. Everything moved with the precision of a machine. Do you see those ships, Admiral? Every one of them is crewed by people who grew up knowing that this day would come. People who spent their lives training to fight your empire. People who have no intention of ever bowing to any master. The human woman turned back to face her prisoner. Your species conquers because you are strong. Humans fight because we have no choice. That makes us far more dangerous than you ever imagined. What do you want from me? Zixtara asked quietly. Information, the locations of hegemony fleets, the strength of your defenses, the identities of worlds that might welcome liberation from your empire. I will never betray the hegemony. Sarah smiled sadly. Admiral, your empire is going to fall whether you help us or not. The only question is how many beings will die in the process. If you provide the information we need, we can target military installations and avoid civilian casualties. If you refuse, we will have to discover everything through trial and error. You would slaughter innocents? We would prefer not to. But we will do whatever is necessary to ensure that your empire never again threatens a free world. That is the difference between us, Admiral. You conquer because you want to. We fight because we have to. The door to the cell opened again. Captain Torres looked inside. Director, we have received a priority message from Earth Defense Command. You are needed in the command center. Sarah nodded and gathered her datapad. Think about what I have said, Admiral. You have knowledge that could save billions of lives. The choice of whether to share it is yours. She left the cell, leaving Zixtara alone with her thoughts. The alien admiral sat in silence for a long time, trying to process everything she had learned. Her empire, which had seemed invincible just hours ago, was facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were predators who had been studying their prey for 70 years. They had learned every weakness, planned for every possibility, and prepared weapons that could destroy anything the hegemony could send against them. Worse, they were fighting for something the hegemony had forgotten, the right to be free. Every human ship was crewed by people who would rather die than surrender. Every human soldier was someone who had volunteered to risk everything to protect their world. The Empire had not faced that kind of determination in centuries. Zixtara thought about her own crew, now dead or captured. How many of them had truly believed in the hegemony's cause? How many had joined the military because they had no other choice? How many had fought and died for an empire that saw them as nothing more than tools? The humans, on the other hand, were fighting for their families, their homes, their freedom. That gave them a strength that no technology could match. It made them willing to take risks that no sane military commander would consider. It allowed them to achieve victories that should have been impossible. Hours passed before the door opened. Again, this time, a young human officer entered with a meal tray. The food was simple but nutritious, prepared to meet the dietary needs of her species. Even as prisoners, the humans were treating their captives with more care than the hegemony showed its own soldiers. How long have you known? Zixtara asked suddenly. The officer looked confused. Known what, Admiral? About the hegemony. About our empire. How long have your people been preparing for this war? The young man considered the question carefully. My grandmother was one of the scientists who studied the first alien ship that crashed on our world. That was before I was born. I grew up knowing that someday we would have to fight your empire. Every human born in the last 50 years has known the same thing. 50 years, Zixtara repeated. An entire generation raised to hate us. Not hate, the officer corrected. Fear. We knew what your empire did to other worlds. We knew what would happen to us if we were not ready when you came, so we prepared. And now? Now the preparation is over? Now we begin the real war. The officer left, and Zixtara was alone again. She thought about her empire, spread across thousands of worlds. Most of those worlds had been conquered long ago. Their populations had forgotten what freedom meant. They served the hegemony because they had no choice and knew no alternative. But what would happen when human ships appeared? In their skies? When human voices broadcast messages of liberation? When the conquered worlds learned that someone was finally fighting back against their oppressors? The hegemony's strength came from the belief that resistance was hopeless, that no one could stand against the Empire's might, that rebellion would only bring destruction. But humans had just proven that the Empire could be defeated. They had shown that the hegemony's ships could burn and its admirals could be captured. Once that knowledge spread across the galaxy, everything would change. Worlds that had submitted long ago would remember what it meant to be free. Species that had given up hope would find the courage to fight again. The Empire would face not just one enemy, but thousands of rebellions breaking out across its territory. Zixthara realized with growing horror that the humans had not just defeated her fleet. They had delivered a mortal wound to the entire hegemony. The Empire's days were numbered, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The door opened one more time. Director Chun returned, carrying the same datapad as before. She sat down across from the alien admiral and waited patiently. "You were right," Zixthara said finally, "about everything. The Empire is going to fall." "Yes," Sarah agreed simply. "How long?" "That depends on many factors. How quickly we can build more ships. How fast we can reach the conquered worlds. How many species are willing to fight for their freedom when they learn it is possible." Zixthara looked at the human woman for a long moment. Then she made her decision. "I will tell you what you want to know," she said quietly. "Not because I believe in your cause, but because I have seen what you are capable of, and I know that nothing can stop you now." Sarah nodded and activated her datapad. "Let us begin with the location of the hegemony's main fleet bases." As Zixthara began to speak, she wondered if she was betraying her empire or simply acknowledging a reality that could no longer be denied. The humans had won more than just a battle. They had shattered the myth of hegemony invincibility, and once a myth is broken, it can never be repaired. Director Sarah Chun stood in the main communication center of Earth Defense Command, watching as technicians prepared for the most important broadcast in human history. Around her, screens showed the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. In just 6 months since the destruction of Admiral Zixthara's fleet, humanity had moved faster than anyone thought possible. The information provided by the captured alien admiral had been invaluable. Fleet positions, defense systems, political structures, and most importantly, the locations of worlds that might be ready to rebel against their hegemony masters. Armed with this knowledge, human ships had struck like lightning across dozens of systems. "Status report," Sarah called to her communications officer. Lieutenant Morrison looked up from his station. "All broadcast systems are ready, Director. We have quantum transmitters positioned in 47 star systems. The signal will reach every inhabited world in this sector of the galaxy simultaneously." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. The quantum transmitters were another piece of alien technology that humans had improved upon. Where the original hegemony devices could send messages across space instantly, the human versions could broadcast to thousands of worlds at once while remaining undetectable. "Are our ships in position?" "Yes, Director." Admiral Torres reports that Strike Force Alpha is ready to move against the hegemony core worlds. Strike Force Beta is standing by to support any rebellions that begin after the broadcast. Strike Force Gamma is protecting our supply lines and newly liberated systems. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing human fleet positions. In 6 months, they had built and deployed over 20,000 ships. The entire solar system had been turned into a massive war factory, producing vessels at a rate that would have seemed impossible before the alien attack. But more importantly, they had liberated 18 worlds from hegemony control. 18 planets where billions of beings were breathing free air for the first time in generations. Each liberation had provided more volunteers, more resources, and more intelligence about their enemy. "Director," called Captain Rodriguez from his station. "We are receiving confirmation signals from all liberated worlds. They are ready to broadcast your message to their populations as well." This was crucial to the plan. The message would not just come from unknown humans in distant space. It would also be broadcast by the freed worlds themselves, proof that liberation was possible and that the hegemony could be defeated. Excellent. Begin the final countdown. 3 minutes to broadcast. Sarah walked to the recording station where she would deliver humanity's message to the galaxy. She had spent weeks writing and rewriting the speech, knowing that these words might determine the fate of billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Behind her, Admiral Torres entered the communication center. Marcus had been promoted after his success in capturing the Hegemony flagship, and now commanded all human military operations outside the solar system. His face showed the weariness of 6 months of constant warfare, but his eyes burned with determination. "Any word from our deep reconnaissance teams?" Sarah asked him. "The latest reports are encouraging, Director. Our stealth ships have reached the Hegemony home system. Their defenses are strong, but nothing we cannot handle. More importantly, our agents have made contact with underground resistance movements on at least 6 core worlds." This was perhaps the most remarkable discovery of the war. Even in the heart of the Hegemony Empire, on worlds that have been under alien control for centuries, there were still those who remembered freedom and longed for it. Human agents, disguised with advanced technology, had found these hidden groups and begun organizing them for the coming fight. 2 minutes to broadcast," announced Lieutenant Morrison. Sarah took her position in front of the recording camera. The speech she was about to give would be heard by every intelligent being in this part of the galaxy within minutes. It would announce humanity's existence to species that had never heard of Earth. It would offer hope to worlds that had forgotten what freedom meant. And it would serve as a declaration of war against the most powerful empire in known space. 1 minute to broadcast. Sarah thought about the long road that had brought them to this moment. 70 years of hiding and preparing, 6 months of devastating warfare, countless sacrifices by humans and aliens alike who believed in the cause of freedom. All of it had led to these next few minutes. 30 seconds. Around the communication center, every person stopped what they were doing and turned to watch. This broadcast would mark the end of humanity's secret war and the beginning of something much larger. A galactic revolution that would either liberate countless worlds or see the human species destroyed in the attempt. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting now. Sarah looked directly into the camera and began to speak. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying the authority of someone who had seen her world nearly destroyed and had chosen to fight back. "People of the galaxy, my name is Sarah Chun, Director of Earth Defense Command. I speak to you from a world called Earth in a system your maps call Sol. You have never heard of us because we chose to remain hidden until we were ready to fight." She paused, letting those words sink in across thousands of worlds where beings were hearing about humanity for the first time. 6 months ago, a Hegemony fleet came to our system. They demanded our surrender. They threatened to destroy our world and enslave our people if we refused to submit. Like so many others across the galaxy, we were given a choice: bow to the Empire or die. Sarah's voice grew stronger as she continued. We chose neither. Instead, we revealed what 70 years of preparation had built. A fleet powerful enough to destroy their entire armada in less than an hour. Technology that surpassed anything the Hegemony possessed. And most importantly, the will to use both in defense of our freedom. On worlds across the galaxy, beings watched their screens in amazement. The Hegemony had always seemed invincible. The idea that any species could defeat their fleets was almost impossible to believe. Since that day, human ships have liberated 18 worlds from Hegemony control. We have freed billions of beings who had forgotten what it meant to choose their own destiny. We have proven that the Empire can be defeated, that their ships can burn, and that their admirals can be captured. Sarah gestured to someone off camera. The display behind her changed to show footage of human ships in battle, alien warships exploding under human fire, and crowds of liberated beings celebrating in the streets of freed worlds. But this war is not about human conquest. We do not seek to replace one empire with another. We fight for a simple principle, that every intelligent being has the right to be free, that no species should bow to masters they did not choose, that the strong have a duty to protect the weak, not exploit them. The footage changed again, showing human soldiers working alongside alien rebels, human ships protecting refugee convoys, and human medical teams treating wounded beings from dozens of different species. We call upon every world that yearns for freedom to join us. We offer our ships to defend any planet that declares independence from the hegemony. We pledge our technology to any species that chooses to fight for their liberty. We promise our support to any being who refuses to kneel before tyrants. Sarah's voice took on a harder edge as she addressed the hegemony directly. To the rulers of the empire, we say this: your reign of terror is ending, your fleets are burning, your conquered worlds are rising in rebellion. The galaxy you have dominated for so long is awakening, and it remembers what you stole from it. The display behind her now showed a star map of the galaxy, with red areas marking hegemony territory and blue areas showing liberated worlds. The blue areas were small but growing, spreading like sparks from a fire. You have a choice to make. You can continue to fight a war you cannot win, sending your fleets to die against enemies who will never surrender. Or you can accept that the age of empire is over and allow your subjects to choose their own fate. The decision is yours, but know this: we will never stop fighting until every being in this galaxy is free. Sarah looked directly into the camera for the final part of her message. To every enslaved world, every conquered species, every being who dreams of freedom but believes it is impossible, we say this: the impossible has happened. The hegemony can be defeated. Their ships are not invincible. Their rule is not eternal. Hope is not dead. Her voice grew warm and inspiring as she delivered the closing words. Earth remembers its children among the stars. We remember that all intelligent life shares a common desire for freedom and dignity. We have come not as conquerors but as liberators, not as masters but as allies, not to rule you but to help you rule yourselves. Sarah stood straighter, her voice ringing with conviction. The war for galactic freedom begins now. Join us, and let the universe know that the age of empires is ending, and the age of free worlds has begun. The broadcast ended, but its effects began immediately. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, billions of beings heard humanity's message. On some planets, the response was immediate rebellion as populations rose against their hegemony masters. On others, the message was passed secretly from person to person, building hope where none had existed before. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Sarah watched as reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Lieutenant Morrison called out updates as they arrived. Director, we are receiving responses from over 200 worlds. 47 have declared immediate independence from the hegemony. 73 are requesting military assistance. 112 are asking for weapons and supplies to arm their own resistance movements. Admiral Torres stepped forward. Our fleet commanders are requesting permission to begin operations. We have rebellion breaking out in 17 star systems. If we move quickly, we can support them before the hegemony can respond. Sarah nodded. Give the order. All strike forces are authorized to begin liberation operations. Priority goes to worlds that have already begun fighting. We will not let them stand alone. As alarms sounded and human ships throughout the galaxy began moving toward their targets, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The broadcast had done more than they had dared hope. The galaxy was waking up from centuries of oppression, and the hegemony was about to face the largest rebellion in its history. But she also knew that the hardest fighting was still ahead. The Empire would not collapse without a fight. They would send their most powerful fleets, their deadliest weapons, and their most ruthless commanders to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. Director, called the intelligence officer. "We are detecting massive fleet movements from the Hegemony core worlds. They are mobilizing everything they have." "How long before they reach the rebel systems?" "Estimated 2 weeks for their fastest. Ships, a month for their main battle fleets." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then we have 2 weeks to liberate as many worlds as possible and a month to prepare for the biggest space battle in galactic history." She turned to address the entire command. "Center, this is what we trained for, people. This is why we spent 70 years preparing. The galaxy is counting on us to prove that freedom is stronger than tyranny, that hope is more powerful than fear, and that no empire can stand against the united will of free beings." Around the room, humans and aliens who had joined the liberation stood ready to carry out their orders. On screens throughout the center, the star map showed human ships racing toward dozens of systems where rebellion was beginning. The message had been sent. The war for galactic freedom had begun. And across the universe, beings who had lived their entire lives under the boot of empire were beginning to believe that a better future was possible. Sarah Chun looked out at the stars and smiled. The countdown to the end of the hegemony had begun, and humanity would make sure it reached zero.